Welcome to the DMF. I'm Justin Younts. This is All the Parts Together.
We've talked about like where kind of the starting place. So talk a little bit about how it evolves naturally. Movement.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is this, of course, collaboration with an actor, artist, and of course with the director and the team and the designers. So I like to hope that evolves in concert with all of these offerings, that some of it's getting drawn from the body of the actors, some of it's getting, I'm analyzing what the director is asking for. If I'm not the director, if I'm the movement director or choreographer, there's information from the text, there's information from the director, there may be information from the design team. There's information that's coming from my body. All of that's coalescing into something I'm giving an actor. Then I start getting information from the actor. How does that fit them? Where does it create friction for them? Is that friction interesting, useful, or is it a sign we should change tack? And then of course that what the actor starts to put out, then if there's like an echolocation against the text, against the other actors, against the director and me, and so then we're getting all this information from what they're giving. Something's off in this scene. What's off? Okay, I feel like the text and what the director's saying are really about intimacy, but you are hopping on top of their line so fast, I can feel that you haven't been affected by what they've said. So let's like create a little bit more duration between the lines, or the opposite. Like, I feel you thinking and not, I feel this character is not like in the conversation because they're like waiting for the end of the sentence. And then I see them trying to like project a response rather than like just having a response, and like, let's be quicker. Or we don't want to be in such a human tempo. We want like, a show like Gilmore Girls, they clearly made the choice to use dialogue in this time signature where it's like, yeah, that's not how people talk. Like, people don't know what they're going to say that fast, and they don't just keep talking like that fast with every idea and perfectly in place. They're intending for us to feel the presence of the director.
Yeah.
Like, that was clearly an intention in the way that they directed those actors. As opposed to, something like This Is Us, where you're like, okay, clearly they wanted this very, they wanted the audience to have this mirror neuron response, very embodied response to the characters. Like, that's the amount of time I would take to figure out what to say there too. And there's something about their time signatures that allowed us as an audience to say like, oh yeah, I feel that, as opposed to Gilmore Girls wanted to hit your brain first and not your body, I think, because it was so stylized, and things that are stylized like that are hopefully stylized for a reason. Take a film like Dogville.
Yeah.
Where obviously they made such a clear, coherent choice about style, aesthetic, architecture, etc. Right? This totally non-realistic set, and yet these like very human things happening inside this frame. It's like putting a Picasso in like this, like pinning it to a wall with like push pins. And you're like, whoa, that's really different than seeing it in this gold frame inside the Louvre, right? Just the context changes the way the frame changes the way we experience the content. And that was obviously a very clear choice.
And talking a little bit about like space in between, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Mulholland Drive. There's that space, and I think what you're saying is that allowing the audience to feel what is going. You see that in a lot of David Lynch's work. it's this space in between it, and I never thought about it till now. Like, probably right, this place where the real thoughts come, that feeling, that I don't know, I can't speak right
Yeah,
now.
and
So I'm
and
affected.
I think my partner has just thinks it's adorable, but my ex-husband was really annoyed by this habit of mine where I would start watching a series and be like, "Oh, he did it." It's a conspiracy between those 2, and it's because they just would put this, there was some little look or some, vocal dynamic or something in that character where, he just, like, glanced away for a second before, whatever it was, and I was like, "Oh, it's them." The way that when somebody coughs in a movie, you're like, "Oh, they're gonna die." Like, there's no reason you're not gonna put a cough in intentionally unless you wanna know that they're getting sick,
Is
right?
that something you notice when you watch films now?
Yeah.
Is you notice the space in between characters, the
Yeah,
space in between words? It's
I
just
can't help
just
it.
pulls right up.
Yeah, the energy, how much control they're using, which is why also sometimes I'm like, oh, that actor's not going to be able to give me accurate information because I can see that they're not engaged in their body in a truthfulness that would be required for me to be able to analyze what's happening with that character. So, like, there's a couple characters, and I won't name them because I don't want to denigrate any
Yeah,
particular
yeah, yeah,
actors,
yeah.
but there's a couple characters on the Gilded Age. And I was trying to figure it out for a while.
Mhm.
Like, is there some kind of like directing agenda that I'm just not really understanding? Or is this actor just not meeting this character? And I finally was like, no, there are enough characters in here that are meeting the character that I think it's just this actor
Yeah.
that they're just not in their body enough for me to understand their agenda. And I keep being like, I don't understand what they're trying to do, or I can't predict what's going to happen. Not in that good way, but in the
Yeah.
like, I don't understand who you are. Um,
It's bland. Yeah.
which, we find in life too, where you're just like, yeah, I don't know. I can't read them. They're
Yeah.
kind of inscrutable, and it's not necessarily a positive
Yeah.
inscrutable,
No, I
right?
know. No, I know exactly what you mean. But that's interesting. That you'll just pick up on that immediately. And I'm sure everyone's around. It's like,
Blessing and a curse.
yeah. It's once you kind of understand, characters and stuff, you can feel energy. You're kind of like, you can almost tell where they're gonna go, if they're gonna get angry or
And then you
not.
can feel what we were talking about before between the like instinct and analysis slider. And I said, sometimes when you're an instinct and you really haven't done the rigorous work to analyze it and be able to defend it to a degree, again, not defensively, but
Yeah.
you haven't earned it. You haven't earned
Yeah.
that choice. And to me,
Yeah.
the earning it is from either direction that you've used the opposite brain function, right? That if
Yeah.
you've analyzed it, you've earned it by also sitting in it in your body.
Yeah.
And if you are in that intuitive state, you've earned it by analyzing it. And you've met in the middle, you've found the sweet spot, and you've earned it by doing the rigor of the other side of the work.
That like feeling that just kind of like that comes out. Yeah, no, I see that too. It's like that reaction wasn't earned. It was forced upon it. It's like what
Or
was
it was like,
that?
or it was thunk upon it. It was like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I put a thought and I decided that was enough because I believe in that thought. As opposed to like, yeah, well, but where's the sense? Where's the intuition? Where's the feeling? I
Yeah,
believe all four of them. They're all, make the quadrants of the Jungian typology: thinking, feeling, sensing, intuiting.
yeah,
And in nonverbal communication, the corollaries of those are attending, intending, deciding, and progressing. And those are the four sort of pillars of nonverbal communication. And we look for those in the body, and there are ways to see them in the body.
yeah. I
And
mean,
so,
from
like, for a character that's like intending a lot but not doing, I'm going to put them more in their vertical dimension, which is the dimension of intending. And if you think about the like, I haven't I haven't yet, but I'm like about to.
Yeah.
This up downness comes in, whereas like front or back is
Yeah.
deciding. And so a character that's very decisive, I'm going to put them like they're constantly like they're forward, they're back, they're not side to side so much. They're not, which is more of a thinking thing. So a character that's a thinker, I might put them, I might have them like doing like a weight shifting and, going from side to side, and I might give them a walk that's more of a side to side walk rather than a very like direct forward momentum walk, propulsion. So all of those things, we're analyzing them whether we can name them or not. As
Yeah.
animals looking at other animals, we are sensing and feeling and intuiting all of those things about other bodies all the time. And the audience in the theater, whether it's a movie theater or a, live theater, we're looking at the bodies on stage or on the film for like an animal response. And so the
Yeah.
more information we give the actor about space, energy, relationship, proximity, etc., the more truthful they're going to be able to be, and the more the audience is going to feel them.
It's interesting because like when I watch film, I'll look at it. I like to watch it like in a meditative state. Whereas this, like everything is like I'm like experiencing everything. Like I've kind of like shut off. I try to shut off the mind as much as possible so I can just be like, just be there. Like I don't even want anyone in my peripheral because I'm just like in there. I don't know. Do you go through that being a
I stay pretty embodied and intuitive until I'm bored, and then I start analyzing why I'm bored. So as long as they have me,
Yeah.
I'm on a ride, and then later I go back and I like to analyze why I felt certain ways and what happened to me. But
Yeah.
the minute that I pull out, I start thinking, which I think is pretty common,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. We do.
right? And that's when, I'm like, when people say you lost me, you lost my embodied attachment,
Intention. Yeah. It's
right?
like
I was
how do you hold that? Yeah. How do you hold
Yeah,
that for the whole?
authenticity. I think authenticity and stakes. Because of course, if we're watching somebody with authenticity but they have no stakes, then
Yeah.
we're gonna drop out
Yeah.
eventually. I can people watch, but I'm only gonna watch the person sitting at the bus stop for so long before I'm like, all right, nothing's happening.
This is so interesting. I'm gonna watch this versus just sitting. Yeah. Um. Now you've experienced a lot with different forms of theater from all over the world. Can you talk a little bit about how those differences um, affected your work?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the differences are probably, as I've had the most experience being the choreographer or movement director, there's the differences have mostly been with the director.
Just the
And
director. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, maybe the producer who hired the director, but like for the most part, the director's vision for how this will roll out and what the priorities are and where to focus attention creates the shape of the container that I'm in. And then I can push against the shape in a certain way and
Yeah.
hopefully like, show like a potential for volume or something that maybe wasn't there before. Um, Directors that uh, have a lot of vision, but also have a taste for not knowing,
Mhm.
um, and have a lot of openness for what I call constellatory thinking. And what I mean by that is like, yeah, so there are all these stars in our sky. And a long time ago, a bunch of white men drew lines between them and was like, that is Orion and that is Bomb. And there's his sword, those three stars. And that's great. That's lovely. It gave us a whole, you know,
Yeah.
uh, landscape or skyscape.
Yeah.
But there's, just as you can lay on a picnic blanket and say, like, oh, what's that cloud? You could also lay on a picnic blanket and say, so what pictures do you see in those stars?
Yeah.
And you could pick new stars and build new shapes and new patterns between them, and then say, I see a cat about to eat a bird. And
Yeah.
that's that constellation, right? And so that constellatory thinking for me means there's specificity, there's grounding in connection, but there's also adaptability and the potential for like new images, new forms, new shapes to come in at any moment. Be like, if you just hooked around that star, it would actually be an elephant.
Mm.
That's interesting. And so for me, directors that have a lot of vision and a lot of specificity, but also that divergent thinking um, I vibe best with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll go and ask really specific questions, and they're like, I don't know, whatever you want. And to me, it means the embodiment is not that
Yeah.
central to them. So if I say like, okay, we're in this, we're working on 12th Night, or we're working on this Shakespeare play, and in the play there's a ball, and I'm like, great, what do you want to happen between the characters at the ball? Who do you want to notice each other? Who do you want to be afraid of each other? Who, what action is taking place among who? What do you want to have be the outcome of the ball in terms of everybody's feelings, emotions, etc.,
Yeah.
that didn't happen before? And if they can't answer that, we're often in trouble
Yeah.
because they don't think of the movement contribution as being a narrative contribution. And for me, that's always
You
a
just see it
sign that,
as
yeah, it's a sign that like I'm not going to be able to do that much work here. And if they're like, okay, well, we're in Sense and Sensibility. Well, Marianne's got to see Willoughby at the ball, and she's got to see Willoughby with his person, and that's got to be a turning point. And then, Willoughby's got to be looking for this person because
yeah.
that's where the money is, and he has a fear about that person seeing Marianne, and he's got to try to keep Marianne and that person apart, and right, all of those things are that gives me the fodder for creativity, because the movement is furthering the narrative.
When you're looking at choreography, are you kind of looking at it like a chessboard in some ways, where you're looking to place people, or does it depend on whether you're directing or the,
Well, certainly, it changes a lot when I'm the director, because I've got all the agency. I wouldn't say a chessboard, only because it's not so linear, and it's not only one thing's not happening at a time. Even if in chess that thing is setting up the potential for other things, I
yeah,
still think it's more of an ecosystem where like one thing affects everything, and from that effect something else will affect everything, and every grain of sand on the beach metaphor, right? One
yeah,
grain of sand changes the whole beach. And so I feel like I want, in more of a viewpoints way, kinesthetic response, that every action has some reaction, whether it's visible or not to the audience. you
mhm,
know um I heard you say that, I'm not responding to it. I didn't hear you say it because I'm ignoring you. I heard you say it and I'm responding to you in this way or in a bigger way. I want the audience to know that I had a response, but I don't want that character to know that I had a response. And everybody in the ecosystem has some kind of response because
yeah,
it's a community.
yeah. Now, because you were around, I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on my question about around the world, because you saw some theater in China. There's more masks. I forget what the specific styles are called, but did any of those affect you? Like, did you look at Commedia dell'arte or any of those?
Well, I do think that a European um, ability to hold contradiction, to not sum everything up, to not lay the linear progression of narrative out the way that I think Americans want, to know the answer sooner, to have it be simpler,
Yeah,
to be able to like get the lay of the land pretty quickly, and the ability to stay in ambiguity that is more of a European tradition and aesthetic is very appealing to me, and definitely
Same here.
affected my sense of em- empowerment to allow the audience to sit in not knowing for longer.
Yeah. As opposed to, like you said, just giving it all to them. Because you see that a lot of Broadway plays. It's like you can already kind of see it in like almost
Yeah,
5 minutes, almost like a screenplay of a
totally.
film. Whereas, you have something like maybe Betrayal or something where it's like, I don't really know exactly what this is yet. If you hadn't read it, if you were looking at it, from pure eyes,
Yeah,
I don't know if you would understand it right away. You'd have to let it unfold to you. And
yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, and shows in which we had like genuine surprise, like,
Yeah.
and not genuine surprise that was like,
That came out
really?
of
That
nowhere.
person was a serial killer? I don't buy it. Like, I just don't buy it.
Yeah.
They just didn't have sociopathic or psychopathic like embodiment.
Yeah.
It's I don't buy it.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about Prazak. How do you pronounce it? Crazy space that you created of it. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Um Say
Praxis
again.
space?
Oh, Praxis space.
Praxis space. That's it.
Praxis space is actually in a big evolution right now. So it was an artistic community where um, people would pay for a membership to join this. And at first, I was sending out an essay every month and a score for them to work with in the
Yeah.
studio. And then eventually, I built up 50 of these, and I turned it into essentially like a library kind of artistic coffee shop where there are
Yeah.
50 essays and 50 scores. And then I built meditations and improvisation prompts and some master classes, and it lived like that for a long time. But a lot of the book that I just wrote drew from a lot of those 50 essays. So then I felt like, okay, I want Praxis Space to become something new. So it's becoming really like a studio, like a virtual studio for my book that's going to come out in June, which is called The Anatomy of Art.
Mm.
And so it's a place for people to try things on and practice, like a little bit like grad school, but without some of the pressure and directionality from your professors that was in grad school. But the things that maybe those of us that went to grad school really loved, which was play, but
Yeah.
like really directed play. Like, try this on, see what it does. Okay, try this, see what that does. Okay, try to do both of those things at the same time, see what that does. So some more like directed, framed practices for us to, again, find ourselves, know ourselves, expand, stretch ourselves, not arbitrarily, but towards an end that we're actually interested in. So it's not somebody else's like expectation of you or decision about what's important. It's not somebody else's priority. But it's also not like, yeah, just do whatever you want, do whatever you feel. I'm sure you'll get better. No, you have to have targeted practice, and we
Yeah.
need to try to do things that are not always comfortable, and we're not always going to invent the things that are uncomfortable for us,
Yeah.
or we're going to do them with too heavy a hand, like, oh, I never do this, so in this piece I'm going to do only that. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's
Too much. Yeah.
yeah, it's just too much. What about like bringing it in as a color, an element, and I'm going to give you a score for it that you
Yeah.
just have to meet. I mean, our here's my feeling, like, the most natural form of creativity is problem solving. We do it all the time, you know, in really simple things. Oh, one arm of my glasses fell off, so I'm going to hold my head like this so that my glasses stay on my nose. It's creativity.
Yeah.
I'm inventing a way to solve a problem. And you see babies do it, right? That's how they learn, is they try something. Nope. They try it a different way. Nope. They tried. Oh, that worked. And that builds a certain synapse in the brain. Now they have access to doing it that way. They can do it that way all the time. Then that becomes a habit. And then we stop trying it new ways. So Praxis Space and what's going to become of it, the Anatomy of Art Studio, is a place where somebody else can give you problems to solve so that your innate creativity can come online the way that it naturally does in your body. Like you have a problem to solve, you naturally, your ingenuity, your
Yeah.
intuition, and your creative problem solving all come alive. And yet we go into this like empty space, blank slate, and we're like, be creative. And you're like, I don't know, I can do anything. It's sort of like creative agoraphobia. It's like it's too open.
Yeah.
I need a little more I need an obstacle to get over so that I can figure out what to do next. So in a way, Praxis Space is like a series of targeted obstacles for
Yeah.
artists um to help them get that creative flow going in the way that it naturally does in your life,
Do
just
you think
problem
that's a
solving.
problem with a lot of acting and actors is there's so much space that actors don't know what to work on. Like they're like
Yeah,
it's just like what do I do?
and I think it's often like over directed or under directed,
Yeah.
and that really sweet spot where as a performer, and I was a performer for a long time, that's really growthful for you is when you've got a lot of specificity and then also a lot of room, which is
Yeah.
what I was talking about, like the directors that I get along with the
Yeah.
best and who inspire me the most and bring them the most transformational work out of me as a creator are people who have a lot of ideas, a lot of specificity, but not a lot of rigidity about how it'll happen.
Out.
And
Yeah.
a lot of openness and adaptability to like, that's interesting. What's that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's
let's go
let's
in that
try it.
direction. Yeah,
Let's see what that looks like. Yeah.
yeah, but also have ideas and specificity and opinions and,
Yeah.
directors
You
that
don't
are
want
like,
to
"I
just
don't know, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I love it all." Okay, I need a little more
yeah.
pressure, um,
I
so
know
that I
those
can meet you.
directors. It's just like, oh, whatever you're just like you're not even being directed. It's just like
Right. So it's like
I'm directing myself.
you're either over controlled and you have no room for play,
Yeah, that's
or you're
awful.
you're under directed and you've got no pressure, which
Yeah,
helps you get creative.
want that like thing.
Yeah.
But like we said with the practice, there's a lot of the practice has you need a lot of rigid. I want to talk a little bit about your book because you got two books coming out.
Yeah.
You got the book coming out in
June.
in June. We got
Yeah.
the one in June, and you got the one that's coming out in December. Um,
It's actually probably April now, but
okay,
yeah. So
okay,
my book that I've been working on for really almost 8 years is called The Anatomy of Art, and it's
okay,
12 different facets of what I consider the artistic practice. 12 different things that we have to consider: time, space, meaning, relationship, environment, process, facts, faith, communication, material, context and culture, and priorities are the 12 chapters. And each chapter has an essay that I wrote, a personal experience from my own creative practice, um, a set of quick tips about it, an embodiment exercise, a creative exercise, a score, set of writing prompts, um, and then about 50 questions to take with you into your own creative process that are meant to help you in real time. So, like what a mentor might say to you in the studio when you're like, I don't know, something's not working about this. And you're in time, and they're like, well, where do you feel like you want to pounce on it? And where do you feel like you want to resist the next thing? Right. That's like a question that a mentor might ask you
yeah,
in the studio where you're like, that's interesting. Okay, this next round, I'm just going to think about that. Or where do you feel like you wanna withhold something? And where do you feel like you wanna just abandon and ride something? Where do you feel like you wanna ride the text, and where do you feel like you wanna control the text? Well, that's interesting. I'm gonna try the next round thinking about that. So, at the end of every chapter are about 50 questions that are meant to be questions like that, that could help you be like, "Oh, right, that's what I need to think about. Okay, good. Okay, I'm gonna take that and run with it." So none of them are like, this is what you're doing wrong or this is where you need to go. They're not directional, but they are meant to help you map your own priorities and interests.
That's a fascinating book. I've read some of it, but I can't wait to read the whole thing.
Me too.
So now this is the part of the show where I do my like inside the actor's studios. These are kind of quick answers. Do you have a beginning of the day routine?
Not a real routine. But I do like to try to be real with how I woke up. So I do try to like stay in bed for a minute and just be like, what's happening in my heart, what's happening in my body, what's happening in my mind. I would say that's as close to a routine as I have.
Do you have a nighttime routine?
Not as much as I'd like. I'm often going to bed too late and sort of trying to hurl myself into sleep with ADHD and a very buzzy mind.
Yeah. Do you meditate?
I would say that my physical practice is a meditation practice, but it's not a traditional like still and silent meditation.
Is that something you would like to add on?
It's something that I wish I did more with more sacred space in my schedule every day.
Okay. What do you do for physical fitness?
Well, I teach movement, so that's pretty much the beginning and end of my practice. I've been trying to do more weight training as I've hit menopause.
Okay. Cool. What are you reading?
Reading actually has become more difficult for me.
Yeah.
In my menopause and ADHD have kind of cycled on each other, and reading has become really challenging. But I actually have become a really big fan of like ingesting video content from somatic practitioners and creatives and political activists. So I do a lot of watching of some, I think fairly high level content, but
Yeah.
I am not doing a ton of reading, to be honest.
Okay. What are you listening to?
I listen to so many different things, but I've been really into this. She passed away some years ago, but Lahasa de Sela.
Okay.
She's from Catalan.
Okay. What kind of music is this?
Kind of like it's very soulful vocal. It's not like Portuguese fado music, but it's got a little bit of that feel of fado. And she sings in French and Spanish and English. So it's got this just like very rich romantic feel.
Okay. What are you watching?
Oh, what am I watching? I just finished The Night Agent.
That's with Tom Hiddleston, right?
No, that's another one.
Okay. What am I thinking?
The Night Agent was sort of a spy show, and I'm always going to be on the Great British Baking Show when it comes out with a new season, which it just did.
That's stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Any movies?
Let's see. I haven't seen. I mean, the last movie I saw, honestly, was with my boys who are teenagers, and we watched Superman, the new, the new DC reboot, and I felt like they did a great job, like in comparison to like the old DC. They're doing a good job, and I really liked all of the like subtle progressive politics that were underneath it, where I was like, are we talking about Israel and Gaza right now?
Yeah.
About Ukraine and Russia right now? Because that's Putin. And that, like, I really liked the little
the guy,
agenda. Yeah.
The guy that they got from, I think it was the Triangle of Sadness, I think is where they got that guy. I thought there were too many characters. Too many for the main characters. I really wanted more of. I thought what he was doing with Lex Luthor was really interesting.
Yeah.
And
totally.
The girl who was playing Lois, I never thought of like, oh, she's a rocker chick who kind of is now this is her finding herself.
Yeah.
This is how she found responsibility type thing.
She was great. And that was the one character that felt like fleshed out to me. And I felt like that was her. That was Rachel that did that. And I think she's just a really fine actor. And somebody said, like, oh, I don't think that the person playing Superman is that great an actor. And I was like, I don't really feel like they weirdly had the biggest acting role. It was
Yeah,
like
no.
everything was just like action, but not
I thought
actually
he
acting.
did a good job with like what the film needed from him. I just wanted more. Like my favorite scene is when he's arguing with Lex toward the end,
Yeah.
and then they just cut it off for comedy, and I'm just like, no, they're going into that. I
This is
wanted to hear more of that.
yeah, this is the real stuff.
I was so
And
upset. I was
I
like,
felt like
why?
there were a couple moments like with his parents too where I was like, "Oh, you're on to something. I'm curious about what this is for you."
Yeah,
You're like biological parents versus these nurture parents
yeah,
and this idea of like nature and construct versus like what you actually experienced and felt and this idea of like whether morality could be redefined by
yeah.
choice and like there was something interesting in that I didn't feel like they really ran with
Yeah, I
either.
wanted more. Yeah, the
Yeah.
fleshing out. That's my biggest problem. Is it just I wanted more of the
Yeah.
depth that was
Yeah,
that
I
was
would
missing
agree.
in there.
And it's something
Um,
that I do feel like Marvel has, traditionally done fairly well is to give you like, okay, I have feeling for what's going on with this character, even though they're like, you know,
yeah,
Thor or Black Widow or something. But I'm like, I do feel like there's something going on there that I'm curious about.
yeah, and I felt like yeah, that's my only rub, but I liked it. Anything we haven't touched on that you'd like to touch on?
I feel like we touched on everything.
Okay, good. How can people reach you?
Oh, I'm very findable. If you just go to my website, Alexandra Beller Dances,
Okay.
there's access to my book and information and free content and free classes and all kinds of stuff on there, and like access to my courses that I teach about the Laban Bartenieff material. I've got a digital course that is very comprehensive to teach you all this stuff about effort and dynamics and body and all of that.
Do you also do you teach like Zoom courses as well?
Yeah, I do. I do live stuff in New York. I travel to do live stuff that other people produce. I've got a bunch of asynchronous digital courses, and then I sometimes do a synchronous digital
Hmm.
course. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the DMF.
Thanks for having me.
Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.